In the morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our live Q&A. We're doing it on a different day than normal, but typically you're going to see us on a Monday, 12 p.m, whatever platform you're on. If you have been coming here for a while, you know the drill, you know what to do, but if you're new here, it's pretty simple. All you got to do is comment below any plant questions you have, anything that you're struggling with, anything that you want to learn more about, or you're just curious about. You know, whether it's a tree that seems like it's dying or it's a new garden project and you want some help with it, all you need to do is just comment it below, and then I'm going to ask it to Chris. Chris is the one with decades of knowledge and experience, so he is definitely very qualified to be answering all of your questions. So yeah, normally we do this on a Monday, but unfortunately we just had other things on the Monday, but we will be back next Monday, 12 p.m, normal time. And so we'd really appreciate it if you could share this with other people. We want to make gardening as accessible as possible. We want to help as many people as we can. So yeah, we'd really appreciate if you let other people know in your life about this live Q&A. And yeah, so we can help more people with gardening. How are you doing today, Chris?
Great, thanks.
Amazing. People are seeming a little bit shy so far. I'm gonna okay, wait, here's our first question. All right. Any chance Chris would be willing to do a site visit in Donvale, even if there is a charge?
Yeah, we could work that out. Give us your details and we'll work something out for you. And I'd like to get an idea of what you actually need with that site visit.
Yeah, so maybe if you just want to email us or give us a call, I mean, you can also DM us and just contact us, and then we can go from there and yeah, see how that is. Let's see, what is the next question? You guys are pretty quiet today. We're used to getting a flood of questions. Maybe we just need to give a little bit of time to let you guys type. All right, here's the next one. I would love to hear about the Corvillus glory tree. Is it true that it is poisonous or is it medicinal?
Which is that one?
The Corvillus glory tree. Do you want me to look it up?
I think we might. Well, let's come back to that one. We might just have to Google and look at. I think I know what that one is, but
Corvillus glory tree.
Name.
Let's see. It's this one here. If you can see that.
Let's have a look.
This one here. Saying if it's poisonous or is it medicinal? That one.
Wow, I've never come across that before. It looks very tropical.
It looks very interesting.
Yeah, what's it say about it?
Let's see what.
Yeah, okay.
Known for its bright orange flowers that grow in large cone or cylindrical shaped clusters, after flowering the tree produces long, flat, woody seed pods. The tree has small, deep green leaves. The plant is attractive to bees, butterflies, Warning, all parts of plants are poisonous if ingested. Handling plant may cause skin irritation or allergic reaction. Use extreme caution when handling.
Yeah, so
That
it
sounds pretty bad to us.
sounds pretty toxic, and it looks quite tropical too. So I imagine that's something that that comes from the tropics and something we're not used to dealing with here.
They have one in their front yard.
Right.
Yeah, maybe best to be careful there. Don't ingest it, seems to be the advice.
And be careful, perhaps put gloves on if you have to prune it or do anything with it.
Yeah.
And then dispose of the
Native to Madagascar.
right. Yeah, so it's a sort of a subtropical. So we're probably talking to somebody from Brisbane way or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where you might have heard that it's medicinal, but we would err on the side of caution and just not eat it. Next one is can't find Boston ivy at the local nursery. Any other recommendations?
Look, we've got a trickle of them coming in. We're struggling a bit too, but we've got a trickle of them coming in, and we do deliver all over Melbourne and most of Victoria. So if you call our staff here, I'm sure you can organise some Boston ivy, but very hard to get at the moment.
And
it's on a wave of popularity, I guess, and people are just soaking them all up.
And we also offer free delivery when you spend over a certain amount, which is nice. Next question is, what are some good plants I can have inside with a cat that like to nibble on things she shouldn't?
Right, okay, so cat friendly. You really, almost anything you can Google online and find out if they're cat friendly or not. And I haven't really done that. I've never had a sort of an indoor nibbling cat, indoor plant nibbling cat. So I've never really done it. I just go online and anything that you like the look of, just Google and see. But I imagine that most palm trees, I think, are pretty ripe for your cat. So indoor palms like the Rhapis palm should be fine. But actually, let's just, for instance, let's have a look at, say, a Rhapis palm and see how it rates for a Rhapis palm. And actually, what I love about Rhapis palms, or lady palms is the other thing that people call them, is we've had one in and out of the house. We put out in the fernery sometimes, but we've had it for maybe 12 or 14 years. And it's a beautiful big one now. It costs hundreds of dollars for something that size, and we start off with just a little tiny one. So it's an indoor plant that can almost spend its whole life in your house. It's not one of those things you buy for a couple of weeks and they're gone. And how does it go for cat friendliness?
Let's see. Cat friendly. We surprisingly get this question quite a lot about. Yeah, it's non-toxic to cats.
Yeah, so that's a great long-lasting indoor plant. So that's all you have to do. We just Googled, like, Rhapis palm's an indoor plant that I love. I had a suspicion it was fine for cats. So if you just pick out the plants you like, Google them, and you can find it easily on the internet. You'll get the answer.
Exactly. Like it says here, Lady Palm is a breath of fresh air for cat owners. Non-toxic, green thumbs up for your feline's health. So you're definitely safe in buying that palm tree.
And I think it's a beautiful palm that'll go in any house. And what I love about it is they're very hard to kill, and they'll last you year after year after year, and they'll just get bigger and better the whole time.
Do you love lilies?
Do I love lilies?
Yeah, do you love lilies? That was the question.
Do I love lilies? I think that what's interesting is that the lily family is the biggest family of plants on Earth. Like,
really?
There's more different lilies. Yeah, there's so many lilies, and I've heard that there's lilies that have giant flowers that smell like dead animals. Like monstrous, and almost never flower, and they have these enormous big flowers that absolutely stink like a rotting animal. So lilies would have more variation than almost any other plant, and there's some lilies to love. I have a granddaughter called Lily, and I guess I do love lilies.
Amazing.
And in particular, we did a video on arum lilies, and arum lilies are the simplest flower around. And I was in Costa Rica, and I noticed that a lot of their artwork had the arum lilies in it, and arum lilies seem to grow wild in the fields, and they were growing absolutely everywhere. And seeing them in all of their artwork, the beauty, and I love the simplicity of arum lily. And And it was a little bit, when I made the video about how much I liked arum lilies here, it was a little bit controversial because they do grow wild sometimes, and some people view them as a noxious weed. But I actually think they're not that noxious because they've got no thorns and they don't spread that badly. They're pretty easy to control if you want to. But so arum lilies would be a type of lily that I really do like.
Perfect. All right, next question is, what's the best way to kill Madeira vine?
Madeira, I would reckon chop it back, let it re-sprout and spray it with Roundup.
Perfect.
Like don't sort of spray a great big vine that's going all over the place. Chop it right back, get a nice bushy regrowth on it, and when it's really growing really well, even put a bit of fertilizer and water on it, get it growing really, really well. When it's really lush and well, spray it with Roundup, and that's when plants are most vulnerable to Roundup, is when they're growing well. Spray it with Roundup and knock it off.
Make it grow nice just to cut it down. Love it. Next question is, do you have any recommendations of any plants that would grow well in cold climates like Tassie? Tassie,
down in Tassie, it's really quite a wonderful climate, and I've been thinking that some of the plants that we try to grow here in Melbourne would actually grow better in Tasmania. Like, for instance, I suspect that a silver birch would grow much better in Tasmania than it would here. And Japanese maples would grow better, because what you've got is you've got longer day length. So your plants that sort of come from a lot of your English plants and a lot of your European plants and your Japanese plants and Chinese plants from the northern part of China and Japan are actually going to do better in Tasmania than what they do here, because you have longer days in summer, long hot, well, they're not that hot, but long sunny days in summer, and so, like, for instance, your silver birch, your smoke bush, lots and lots of things are going to actually grow better in Tasmania. I mean, work up your soil nicely, water in summer, and you'll be amazed at the growth you can achieve. And I remember years ago hitchhiking through the Huon Valley when it was all apple orchards. There's not so much apple orchards down there now, and the growth on the apple trees, I've never seen growth like it here in Victoria. So choosing right and choosing things from the higher latitudes, because Tasmania is almost in the latitudes where some of your English and French climates are. So choosing things from those higher latitudes, they're the things that are going to do well for you down there. Like, for instance, elderberry. The best elderberries I've ever seen are in southern part of Tasmania, and even in the north of Tasmania I've seen beautiful elderberries. So, like, whereas elderberries, you really struggle to produce a nice fruit here in Melbourne. So we're just our latitude's a little bit low, whereas down there you can really grow elderberries. So, and elderberries are interesting. They're a really beautiful plant. I used them in a garden design the other day, and there's one with a finely cut deep purple leaf and amazing white flowers that contrast fabulously with it. And I mean, have a look at that. It's a dark purple elderberry, beautiful thing. I think we've got them on our website with white flowers. And one of the problems you have in Tasmania is that very, very tough quarantine getting plants from Victoria down to there, and that does restrict the range of plants available a little bit. But you know, look to those things like elderberries, look to things like smoke bushes, look to things like birches. 9 bucks would be another thing that would do really well down there. So anyway, that's a few ideas, and Tasmania is a beautiful place, a great place to grow the right sort of plants.
Perfect. Next question is, does the fig tree need to be planted in full sun? Would planting it in a front garden that gets shade from a pine and oak impact its fruit?
Yeah, look, I think a fig tree would grow anywhere, but I've got one in the hottest, sunniest spot you could find, a sun-drenched location, and the fruit production is fantastic, and that's what you've grown for, is to get some figs, and so try and get them in the hot sun for maximum. They'll grow anywhere, but for maximum production, look for that hot sun.
Yeah. Next question is, what's the best flowering cascading plant for a retaining wall Canberra climate?
Flowering plant for a cascading. I reckon your convolvulus, your blue convolvulus, or you can get blue convolvulus, or you can get white convolvulus. So, the nice little round flowers, and that cascades beautifully and flowers for 5-6 months of the year.
Awesome. I have a miniature lemon tree in a pot that was getting a lot of lemons, but they are not setting and falling off while small.
Okay, so I would say that would be indication of some sort of stress. So if you went to a bigger pot with top quality potting mix, plenty of water, plenty of fertilizer, and Osmocote seems to work really, really well with your citrus. So some fresh potting mix, some fresh Osmocote, plenty of water, and you should get them setting.
Yeah. Next question is from Mercedes. My house faces west, so we get the sun from 11 in the morning till 7 p.m. What are some plant ideas?
Okay, so hot afternoon sun like that, you could do really, you want tough stuff. And say if you wanted to get, like one thing facing west like that, if you wanted to get some nice soft dappled shade, you might go for some birches. So something like a silver birch or a moss white or a cutleaf birch, and they seem to break the sun up and because it could be quite, in summer it could be quite hot, with a hot westerly position it could be quite hot. But say you put some birches there, and then if you wanted the garden to look kind of modern and smart, you might look at something like a Miss Muffet, which is kind of a lovely round green dome with beautiful glossy foliage, long leaves. You might look at something like Cousin It, for instance, which is a beautiful ground cover, dark green sort of ground cover. You might then be looking for a little splash of colour, and you might go for something like a Beyond Blue fescue, and then you've got beautiful white trunk birches. You've got lovely domes of Miss Muffet, which is not just a nursery rhyme, it's actually a beautiful little plant you could Google and look at. And then you've got your Cousin It providing a ground cover around your Miss Muffet's lovely dark green ground cover, and then you've got your Beyond Blue, which is probably the brightest of your blue fescues, and not growing too big, and that could be all put together, and that would make a beautiful landscape. It looked like you'd hired a landscape architect. It would make a beautiful, smart landscape.
Love that. All right.
And the birches would cool things down a little.
Perfect. Next question is, how can I get my neighbour's mint to stop coming through my fence and growing with my plants?
You need to confront your neighbour, and then you need to go out and confront the mint.
Have a serious conversation.
Yeah, mint needs to be grown in a pot and contained a little, and I think you need to talk to your neighbour about that. And otherwise, you could don't do that. I was going to say you could sneak over with a bit of Roundup, but that might be a little bit mean. I talk to the neighbour.
And illegal.
I'd talk to the neighbour and get some mint cooperation.
Best of luck. Next question is, I'm in the process of building my pathway outside the front yard. What plant do you recommend I can put in between the paver stone, which is low maintenance, great in Melbourne weather, and is not grass?
I missed it. What was the second last line there? Grey. You said grey?
Great in Melbourne weather and is not grass and low maintenance.
Okay. If you were to Google and look at the blue pratia, there's some beautiful shots of that with different coloured paving, planted around paving. And I particularly like the blue pratia. You've got beautiful green foliage, and then these little starry, pale blue flowers. And it's a good hardy plant, takes a bit of foot traffic, easy and fast to grow. At the moment we've got great big 6-inch pots, and what I've been telling customers to do, because often you need lots and lots of plants to fill up around all your pavers, and I've been saying to people to order the big full pots and then cut them up like a pie into 4 slices, and then plant them so that say you need 200 pieces, you buy 50, cut them into 4, and out you go. And so that means that, say, comparing to Dumonda, I think the Pratia would be faster growing, more versatile, and a heck of a lot cheaper, because I think we sell the big 6s for $5.99, and you cut them in 4, they're really only costing $1.50 a plant. And they're still a reasonable sized plant when you cut them in 4. So that would be, I think, Blue Pratia would be a really good choice. But if something really different, say for instance you had a dark coloured paver, have a look at the Diamondia Silver Lawn, and it's a beautiful sort of silver grey, very, very plain but beautiful silver grey, and really sets off a nice dark paver. So that would be another one you could look at. But as something that would go with anything and be easy and fast and economical to do, it'd be hard to beat the Blue Pratia.
Amazing. Next question is it natural for new roses leaves to come out as red? Also,
Yes.
Okay, nice.
Yes. What you'll find, not all roses come out with a red leaf, but I think that when your iceberg, I don't think, actually when they're really, almost any rose, when it's really well fertilized and watered and really feeling good, it'll be somewhere between a pale red and a dark red for the new foliage. And I noticed particularly that the red flowering ones have particularly red new foliage, and then once it hardens up and settles down, it'll turn into a nice mid to dark green.
Nice. And also, is it okay to cut drying branches at this time of the year?
Yeah, I would. I would. You can. This is a good time while the roses are growing, and if you see a dead or a crook bit, you can see where it's healthy again. You cut back to just above where it's healthy, so that it's a good time to clean them up.
Yeah. Someone is looking for a hanging plant for a covered / semi-enclosed deck / pergola that gets very hot. Had patience flower there, and they completely dried out and wilted even though regularly watered them. They're in Melbourne.
I'd be looking at my potting mix and making sure that you've got a potting mix that doesn't, a really good quality one that doesn't dry out too easily. One of my favourites is Nature's Soil. I find that to be a really good one. We stock that one here. But so a good potting mix will help you. And I'm thinking Silver Dichondra, and I'm just thinking how you might avoid that problem. Silver Dichondra is very good because it'll take the shade really well. And I was thinking the other one, but it really needs sun, is Burrows Tail. Is probably the most indestructible cascading. It's a succulent, but I think to really do well, it does need a bit of, a fair bit of light or a bit of sun. But Silver Dichondra really does take quite a bit of dry and does well in partial shade. And I think by improving your potting mix, I think by putting a really good potting mix in, it won't dry out so easily.
Yep. Next question is, I've started a ficus about a year ago. How long will it take to get a thick trunk, and will trimming help?
Actually, to get a thick trunk, I would just let it grow and not do too much trimming. So plenty of water, plenty of fertilizer, plenty of hot sun, and really push it along and get lots and lots of. The more growth, the more trunk.
Yeah.
And so the trunk thickens to sort of support the extra growth. And so I would be watering and fertilizing and push, and that will give you the thick trunk the quickest. I had a friend who, I still got a friend, who grows bonsai, and he has quite, within a few years he'll get a maple or something with a really thick trunk. And what his secret is that he's got a block out in the bush, and he goes out there and plants little tiny skinny ones, and he lets them grow up sort of 3-4 meters tall over a couple of years. Then he chops them right back, and that way he's captured a thick trunk in 3 or 4 years that might have otherwise taken 20 or 30 years, by trimming. So by avoiding trimming, he makes a thick trunk quickly.
Yep. Next is, I've got pets. What's a nice large house plant that can get no direct sunlight?
Well, I mentioned the Rhapis palm before. Rhapis palm doesn't need any direct sunlight, and they can get up. I think my one at the moment would be 1.5 or 1.6 meters tall. So they get up, quite big without too much light. your rubber tree, you know, the one with the big leaves, that can get quite big with no direct light. So a rubber tree, so a rufous palm, a rubber tree. And the other one that doesn't need much light, but kind of like it won't really get big in the house, but you can buy a big one fairly cheaply. And if I wanted an economically priced, super duper hardy, tall, you know, a lot of tall indoor plants will just about send you broke buying them, but get yourself a giant bird of paradise. Giant birds of paradise, get a nice big tall one, and they'll grow with almost no light. And they'll grow and be healthy. They don't grow quickly though, like they grow quickly in the hot sun, but once you've captured a nice big one, you put it into a low light situation, it'll live there for years without a problem. Won't grow that much, but that's the way to economically and quickly get a sort of a big indoor plant in a low light thing would be a giant bird of paradise.
Perfect. All right, does climbing ivy really ruin the house if it climbs over it? Should I do it or steer clear?
Do you know something? Ivy seems to suck the guts out of whatever it's on, and I've sort of seen crumpled sheds, you know, which is all that's left is the ivy, and it's sort of eaten the actual shed, you know. So whereas I was involved in a restoration of a National Trust building, and the architect wanted to plant Boston ivy on it. I said, "Oh, don't do that; it'll wreck all our good work." And he said, "No, Boston ivy is fine." And I've been involved with that building for 10 or 12 years since. And every so often I go there and peel back a bit of Boston ivy and see what the damage is like, and there ain't none. So Boston ivy seems to be able to grow on a building without wrecking it, and English ivy seems to root into it and suck the guts out of it. So avoid your English ivy on a building you want. It could be, although if you want to get rid of a building, it could be a cheap way of achieving a slow demolition.
Well, exactly. Next question is, will sweet viburnum stand full sun as a front hedge?
Yeah, some people say that they don't, and actually I recommended some to a customer the other day, and another nursery said, "Oh no, you can't grow them in the full sun," and the customer thought I'd misled them. But what the truth is that sweet viburnum does really, really well in the shade, and I get lots of customers that might have a big tree in the back corner of their garden, and they want to do the back fence, and they want to go right along. In fact, I had a customer like that this morning, and they want to go right along, and they want to have the hedge all looking good, and it's under the shade of the tree in that corner because there's a tree in that corner, and then hot sun in the other corner. And what I say to the customer is plant them all the way through, but in that hot sunny end, be generous with the water. So if you and what will happen is that you'll get a beautiful hedge all the way through, whereas with Photinia, ficus, most lily pillies, you'll have a terrible hedge under the shade and a beautiful hedge up in the hot sun. So where people get the idea that the sweet viburnum won't do well in the hot sun is when people don't water them properly, they'll sunburn. The big leaves will get big brown dots in them and they'll go back. So given adequate water, which isn't a really ridiculously gross amount of water, you can have beautiful hedges going from the shade to the hot sun with sweet viburnum. But as long as you recognise the water needs in the hot sun, that's basically it.
Perfect. Next one is, I have a finger lime that has lost most of its leaves and its stems are browning. Can I save it?
Sounds like it's in trouble. Now, if I had a finger lime in that position, what would I do? They're very expensive. You'd be reluctant just to throw it in the bin. What I would do is perhaps repot it with some good potting mix, put it out in the hot sun, and put a little bit of Osmocote around it. Keep it moist. Without much leaves, it won't be using massive amounts of water, but keep it, water it occasionally, keep it moist. And pray for some new shoots. And if you're not going to get new shoots in the next couple of months, in a hot sun and a bit of water and fertilizer, you'll never get them. So I'd give it a couple of months and hopefully produce some new shoots and get it away. And I've seen citrus come back under that, fresh potting mix, a little bit of Osmocote, plenty of water, and out in the hot sun. Plants love, particularly citrus, they love hot sun.
Amazing. Well, keep us updated on that and let us know how you go. Next one is, what is best to plant in between fence and concrete around the house? Space is around 200 millimeters.
Okay, what I think at 200 millimeters, you really can't put a bush or a tree, so you're really left with a climber. And things that you could consider are Boston ivy. Now Boston ivy is great because it'll grow all over the fence without you putting up any trellis or putting up anything for it to climb on. And Boston ivy is really, really quick. And what's even quicker than Boston ivy is your Virginia creeper. So Boston ivy or Virginia creeper is super quick. And then they both have fabulous autumn colour in the autumn and then bare in the winter. Then if you said, no, I want an evergreen, I'd say look at Ficus pumila. Ficus pumila, lovely fine foliage and a little bit slow to cover the fence, but it'll cover the fence and grow in that little, and you want to work up the soil in your little crack of soil there, but work that up a little bit, chop it up, get some good soil in there, a bit of fertiliser and stuff. So Ficus pumila would be your evergreen climber that could go there. Or using a trellis, you could use something like Chinese star jasmine, and where you've got fences that are very, very shady, the Chinese star jasmine is fabulous. It doesn't need any direct sun. It'll take hot sun, but it doesn't actually need it. And then where you've got a moderate amount of sun, I love Lady Di. Lady Di, beautiful evergreen climber, does need a bit of trellis. So your last two choices, Chinese star jasmine and Lady Di, both need a climb and both need something that, some wire or trellis or something to climb on. But those, and where I had no sun, I'd use the Chinese star. Where I had moderate to full sun, I'd use the Lady Di. And Lady Di I love because it flowers for 5 or 6 months of the year with beautiful big showy white flowers, sort of set against lovely luscious tropical style foliage. So there we are, we've got Boston ivy, Virginia creeper, Ficus pumila, Chinese star jasmine or Lady Di.
Some really great choices. All right, next one is from Deb, saying that they have an indoor plant that has some yellowing. Anything they can do there?
Okay, so what would I do? It's hard, it'd be lovely to see it, but without seeing it, what I would say is some fresh potting mix, some liquid fertilizer. When I was watering it, I'd start getting a bit of liquid fertilizer into it, something like a power feed or really any good, all-round liquid fertilizer. So when you're irrigating it, get some liquid fertilizer right through that potting mix. So a repot, some liquid fertilizer, and then also the other thing is people always say don't water your indoor plants too much, and what people tend to do is they tend to water them not very often with not very much water, and that's like a double negative, like that's negative. And so my mum was the best person I've ever seen with indoor plants, and what she would do is she wouldn't water them very much, but when she watered them, she'd get the laundry trough, she'd flood it, fill up the laundry or half fill the laundry trough, and then pop all her indoor plants in there. And that's a great time to get a bit of fertilizer into them, and then you leave them there for an hour or two and let them really soak up the water, then pull the plug, let all that water come out, drip dry, and then put them back out in the house. You might leave them overnight, drip drying in the trough. But that's so what I think if you're going to not water them very much, when you do, you might only water them every 10 days or 2 weeks, but when you do, really water them. So the not watering very often and then not watering very much when you're not watering very often is a big indoor plant killer.
Yep. Next one is Portuguese laurel toxic to dogs or kids?
Portuguese laurel has a toxicity, but look, I've eaten the berries, I've had enormous exposure to it, and what it is, it's got sort of a type of acidity in it, and I've even seen cows eating it, and basically I think that you would have to sit down and eat buckets of the stuff to kill yourself, and nobody could. And anybody who just nibbles on it a bit will be appalled by the flavour and they'll stop. So it's Portuguese laurel is there's lots of things that are poisonous, but only some mad animal or something would eat enough of it to kill themselves, or some suicidal maniac or something like that, because it tastes terrible and you need to eat kilos of it to kind of get a problem.
Yeah. All right. Next question is, how do you encourage bioscreen lily pilly best growth? What kind of fertilizer is best?
Okay, lily pillies all come from kind of subtropical to tropical rainforest, and what they do is that what they've trained to do over millions of years is that they sit there and they wait for the wet season. When the wet season comes and it rains rain, you know, you get really heavy rain once every week or 10 days, then light rain, you know, once a day or something like that. When you've got that going on, they grow like crazy. So how I tell people to get their lily, and it doesn't matter if it's a fire screen or weeping lily pilly or any lily pilly, the secret to growing lily pillies is when you want, when you've got the hedge you want, you don't want to water it too much, because then you'll be out there cutting it all the time. So but when it's too small and you want it to really grow, the secret is this: absolutely flood them and drown them once a week. So absolutely drown them once a week. You know, use a soaker hose, whatever, and absolutely drown them. Then water them a few times through the week, just a light water, just to sort of top up that drowning. And then Osmocote, say every 6 weeks. And so if you were to give them a good dose of Osmocote every 6 weeks, and do the heavy watering once a week, and like the drowning once a week, and then regular little waters through the week, they will grow like crazy. Given that an established weeping lily pilly will grow 1.5 metres in a year, a fire screen should be able to grow over 1 metre in a year using that process.
Yep. I just want to give a quick reminder before I move on to the next question. We got about 10 minutes left of the live, just because obviously Chris has a lot of other things to do, and so we only are able to kind of etch out this time. We used to only do 30 minutes, and now we're doing 45 minutes. That's already an improvement. Moving on to the next one. We have thanks for answering my questions. I really appreciate it. This is my first time growing roses, so I'm new to it. Is it okay to repot them at this time of the year? Their pots are just small, and I think they're becoming too small for the roses.
Yes, but don't tease the roots. So what you do is just put a little bit of potting mix in the bottom, water them before you do it, put a little bit of potting mix in the bottom of the new pot, slide them out, drop them into position, put the soil in around the outside, put a bit of Osmocote on them when you're finished. But so basically just move them across with no disturbance and they'll be fine. Roses wouldn't like you to tease them or rough up their roots at this time of year, and then put them out in the hot sun and keep them watered, and they'll kick off and do great.
Yep. Next is, what are your thoughts on creeping fig?
Okay, creeping fig, interesting plant, and if you go to Toorak, it'd be a toss-up. It's either Boston ivy or creeping fig is the most common plant in Toorak, and it's a great way to cover up walls. The only thing with creeping, well, there's two things. One, it's a little bit slow, but it'll grow in the shade, it'll grow in the sun, it'll grow in the tiniest little crack. So it really helps a lot of people out who maybe couldn't grow much else. And then the other thing with it is that it has this beautiful fine juvenile growth which looks absolutely fabulous. Then once it sexually matures, it gets this really ugly growth, and it grows out from the wall, and at that point you need to, and so the people in Toorak that have good gardeners and look after their garden and they look fabulous, and you see the most beautiful walls of ficus, is they trim them, and they trim them just probably an inch or 3/4 of an inch thick of foliage. And if you let them come, the more they come out, the sexually mature foliage is quite ugly, and the branches and everything quite ugly. So if you see an abandoned garden with an untrimmed ficus, it's like one of the worst things you'll ever see. So if you plant the ficus, be prepared that it takes a little while to grow, and then after it's been maybe 4 or 5 years, you've got to start trimming it flat to the wall or flat to whatever you're growing on, or you get this awful foliage that destroys the whole effect. So there's really a little bit slow and then a little bit of maintenance down the track.
Yeah. Next one is, what is a plant that has large white flowers, full sun, and limited space for Sydney?
Large white flowers, full sun. Not super large. You could go Gardenia magnifica is quite a nice size. White. Roses, of course. Your icebergs, medium-sized flower, but plenty of them for a really long period of time. And then I was enjoying some beautiful white flowers yesterday, and they was little gem magnolias. And what's great about them is that the flower there would be the size of a saucer, that goes under your, for your cup of tea, about saucer size, beautifully fragrant. But what I love about the little gem is, and they do really well in Sydney, probably better in Sydney than Melbourne, But what I love about the Little Gem is that these trees that we were videoing had, flowers, and they didn't have millions of flowers. They had a nice big flower here and a nice big flower there, but they were covered in buds, and they were going to have a beautiful show of flowers for the next 3 or 4 or 5 months. So hard to beat. Not a big show, but a sort of a nice steady show, and just enough to really punctuate these beautiful big fragrant flowers. And then we have one on our website called a Big Gem, which is a cheeky little thing that I've done, and it's the magnolia that the Little Gem was bred from, and that has an even bigger flower than the Little Gem, and it has a much more stronger fragrance. But it's a quite a big grower, and if you need a reasonable sized garden, or you need to be quite willing to prune, but it grows up very, quite big quite quickly, with beautiful big luscious foliage and lovely big flowers. So that's your Big Gem, or more correctly known as the Magnolia Exmouth.
Amazing. Next one is my Photinia robusta has spots on leaves and are curling up and is very unwell. I have 6 of them as a hedge. What do I do?
Well, I've got the same problem, and I was going to look into it today. But basically, here's some interesting facts. Is that Photinia is in the same family or genus or something like that as a rose, and what you've got there is we've had a bit of a humid spring, and you've actually got same sort of funguses as you get on roses on the leaves of your Photinia, and I'm tossing up what to do. Like, I'll go get some good rose leaf fungicide, and I'll do a couple of applications of that, or it seems to be turning quite hot and dry at the moment. I could just water and fertilise, and I know that in the hot dry summer that we seem to have coming up, that they'll grow, and they'll grow clean, because we won't have that humidity that gave us that problem. And so I'm tossing up. I was going to get some more advice myself, because I've got thousands of them that have got these little spots on them, and so my big question is, do I grow them out? And I think I can grow them out, and probably you can too. Or if you're really sort of fussy, you might get some rose fungicide, an all-purpose rose fungicide, and spray them with that, and that combined with some water and fertilizer, they should grow out clean. And that's probably what I should be doing. Is I should be looking to a really good all-purpose rose fungicide. Probably I'd go for a big commercial quantity, and I'd use a sort of an atomizer spray that really blasted them, and then water and fertilizer, and get them to grow out of it. So basically, it's some sort of similar or the same fungus as what you get on your rose leaves in a humid spring.
Amazing. Next one is my fig tree is in a terrible condition. It's growing taller but not bushy. It looks miserable. I am based in Southern Highlands.
So Southern Highlands, I reckon I would clear all around the base. I'd make sure there was no grass or rubbish around the base. I'd drop a kilo or 2 of dolomite lime around the base, put a bit of fertilizer on it, plenty of water this summer, and get some growth on it, beef it up a little. So basically, grass and weed control, cultivation, limestone, water and fertilizer this summer, and report back to me a year from now, and I bet you've got a much better fig tree.
Amazing. Next one is, can I keep hydrangeas in pots? I'm in Brisbane.
Okay, the secret, actually there's 3 secrets to hydrangea, and I'm going to unveil them all right now. The first one is plenty of water. The second one is a bit of extra water, and the third one is even more water. So they're the 3 secrets of growing hydrangea.
Very simple and easy to remember.
So now one of the things you could do is you could get some plastic or other sorts of saucers and have them sitting in a saucer of water, so that while you're at work they're not running out of water. And I'm serious about the water, and then they love a little bit of fertilizer, and you could use, like I'm always saying, Osmocote. Osmocote is a good reliable fertilizer. There's plenty of other fertilizers around, but it's a good reliable fertilizer, so you really couldn't go wrong with Osmocote. And then what you want to have a think about is, what colour do you want your hydrangeas to be? Now I bet you that most potting mixes are probably going to give you a pink hydrangea, pink flowering one, and I put out a video recently, and I'm sitting next to a big patch of blue hydrangeas, and I say there's no such thing as a blue hydrangea, and which is a weird thing to say when you're sitting next to a whole lot of blue hydrangeas, but basically what it is, your blue hydrangea will be pink or red if it's got heaps of lime, or it'll be blue if it's acidic. And a lot of your potting mixes that you buy tend to be more alkaline than acidic, so you often get pink or red when you're growing in a potting mix. So if you go down to Bunnings and get some of that blue stuff, blue hydrangea bluing stuff, and put that on around your pot, you might get a blue one, which is kind of a fertilizer in a way. So Osmocote, water, and maybe a bit of blue stuff if you want a blue hydrangea.
Perfect. And we do also have an article on our website that is all about hydrangeas. It's very extensive if you want to go read up on it and learn even more about hydrangeas. I think I'm just going to ask one more question, depending on how long the answer takes. But if we didn't get to your question today, please come to our Monday Live. We do it weekly. The important thing is just getting in soon, because then your question will definitely get answered. I just kind of read it in chronological order as the comments come up on the different platforms. So if you want to have your question definitely asked, then just make sure to get in soon and ask it soon, and then it definitely will be. But of course, if you can't make those lives, we are more than available for if you want to call, or if you want to email or come in store, anything like that. I am going to finish off with let's see. When do you know if you should repot plants / flowers to a bigger pot, or can you leave them?
That's a kind of an interesting question. Basically, one of the best ways to revitalize a plant, and it's funny, I was just looking, I had a pine tree, a beautiful Japanese red pine in a pot, in the same pot for about 9 years, and my partner went crook at me and said that it really deserved better, and she was going to repot it, and she went and chose herself a pot and she repotted it, and she repotted it about 14 months ago, and I tell you what, I've got 3 times the pine tree that I had back then. It is absolutely amazing. It was a beautiful pine tree before, it's an amazing pine tree now, and so repotting is a great way to revitalize a tired plant. But the thing is that like you might have like a tiny little balcony or something like that, and you don't really want a bigger pot there, you don't really want to move it to a bigger plant. And so the other way to revitalize your plants is that lime is water soluble. So what happens if you've got a beautiful plant out on your deck and you water it every night when you come home from work, you're washing the lime away. So if I wanted to keep a plant in the same pot, and I'd have to be careful, like I'll qualify this, don't do this with a gardenia or a dogwood or a camellia, but for most other plants, I'd put a good dose of dolomite lime in there, and then I'd use and then with dolomite lime, at least once a year, a good dose of dolomite lime. So say I had a ficus what happens, you've got a ficus in a pot, you don't want to go to a bigger pot. What you would do is you put a good dose of dolomite lime there, and then you'd leave that for a month or 6 weeks, and then you put a good dose of Osmocote in there, and you'll find that with the calcium in place and then some NPK fertilizer, you'll find that ficus will take off and go again. Although if you did all of that and put it in a new pot with new potting mix, it'll do twice as well, as I've done with my beautiful red pine.
Perfect. Well, that is it for today's live. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope your question was answered. As I mentioned before, if it wasn't, come to Monday's Live, 12 p.m, whatever platform you're on, and please share with all your loved ones. We want to make gardening accessible for everyone, and we hope the rest of your Wednesday is lovely.
In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line.